I couldn't believe my eyes. A bulldozer was ripping through my cabin, tearing apart everything I'd built, while this HOA president stood there, orchestrating the destruction like she was some kind of dictator. When I confronted her, she pulled a stunt that could have ruined me forever. She called the cops and claimed I'd attacked her. But sometimes, the unlikeliest hero steps up, and sometimes, the bully gets exactly what's coming. This is the story of how one woman's lies unraveled in the most spectacular way imaginable. Let me take you back to where it all began. My name's Tom Harper, and 4 years ago, I bought a modest 1970s cabin in a quiet corner of Boise, Idaho. It was a small place, just 900 square feet, nestled on an acre of land with towering pine trees. After 35 years as a city plumber, crawling through damp basements and fixing leaks, all I wanted was a peaceful spot to retire, sip coffee on my porch, and watch the world go by. The cabin wasn't much, but it was mine, bought for $280,000, every cent of my savings. The moment I stepped through that squeaky front door, it felt like home. 3 days into my new life, I'm out front watering the roses my late wife had loved. Yeah, I kept them alive for her when this woman struts up my driveway like she owns the place. Diane Kessler, late 40s, hair pulled back so tight it must have hurt, clutching a clipboard like it was a badge of honor. Her smile was the kind that makes your stomach churn, fake, cold, and all business. "Mr. Harper," she says, not even bothering with a hello, "your property doesn't meet neighborhood standards." I'm standing there, hose dripping, thinking this has to be a prank. But she pulls out a measuring tape, starts inspecting my fence like she's a health inspector at a diner. "I'm Diane Kessler. I'd like to offer you $110,000 for this place. Cash, closes in 10 days. I laughed in her face. "Lady, I paid $280,000 3 days ago, and that was a steal. The land alone's worth $350,000. Her smile vanished for a split second, and I saw something dark flicker in her eyes, something that made my skin crawl. "We'll see, Mr. Harper," she said, spinning on her heel and marching off like she was already plotting my demise. The next morning, I woke up to 15 violation notices stuffed under my door, $600 each for nonsense like siding color non-compliant, lawn height exceeds 1.5 inches, and my favorite, mailbox angle disrupts aesthetic harmony. My grass was barely overgrown, my siding was fine, and my mailbox matched everyone else's. By the time I'd read through the stack, Diane was back, that fake smile plastered on again. "Ready to reconsider my offer?" she asked, all syrupy. "Given these violations, I'll have to drop it to $100,000. The nerve of this woman. She'd cooked up fake violations overnight to strong-arm me into selling. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just HOA nonsense. This was a calculated scam, and I wasn't her first target. I did some digging online and found out Diane ran a property management company, snapping up homes in our area for years, always at dirt cheap prices from owners buried under sudden HOA fines. The pattern was clear: target older properties, drown owners in violations, then swoop in with a lowball offer. It was slick, probably illegal, and she'd turned harassment into a business. But Diane didn't know who she was messing with. 35 years as a plumber meant I knew building codes inside and out, and I could spot fake violations a mile away. If she wanted to play this game, she'd better make sure her own properties were spotless, because I had a feeling they weren't. The next day, I took a drive around Boise to check out Diane's rental properties. What I found was a jackpot of real violations. One house had plumbing vents installed dangerously close to gas Lanisa fire waiting to happen. Another had exposed pipes running across a porch, a blatant code violation. The third was a mess, an illegal DIY plumbing setup with pipes jury-rigged in ways that could flood the place. I snapped photos, filed detailed complaints with the city, and by that afternoon, inspectors were crawling all over her properties. By evening, Diane was hit with $22,000 in mandatory repairs. When she showed up at my door the next morning, clutching the inspection reports and screaming, "You did this!" I just sipped my coffee and said, "I reported some hazards I noticed. Got a problem with that." Her face was pure rage, but I could tell she was rattled. She upped her offer to $130,000, but I shut her down. "You don't scare me, Diane," I said. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," she hissed back. That afternoon, my water got shut off, no warning, no explanation. The utility company said they'd received a complaint about plumbing safety issues at my address. I knew this was Diane's doing, but she'd screwed up. Filing a false utility complaint is a serious offense, and I had records proving my plumbing was up to code. One call to the city utilities office where I still had friends from my working days confirmed the shutoff was illegal. By day's end, Diane was slapped with a $3,000 fine, and my water was back on. I left a plumbing code manual on her car with a note. Study up, Diane. You'll need it. Petty? Sure. Satisfying? You bet. The neighborhood started buzzing. Some neighbors backed me, having endured Diane's harassment themselves. Others fretted about property values and urged me to take her offer. Fighting the HOA never ends well, one said. But I wasn't about to let a scammer run me out of my home. Diane tried next to get my cabin condemned, showing up with a so-called structural engineer who pointed at normal foundation cracks and declared the place unsafe. I'd had my buddy Mike, a real engineer, inspect the cabin before I bought it, so I had him file a report confirming it was solid. When Diane tried pushing her fake condemnation through City Hall, the clerk laughed her out with Mike's report in hand. Then things got weird. A construction truck started cruising by my place, slowing down to stare. The license plate matched a company tied to Diane. I knew something big was coming. One Tuesday morning, I came back from the hardware store to find a bulldozer tearing through my workshop. Tools, projects, my late wife's keepsakes all reduced to rubble. And there was Diane, in a neon orange hard hat, directing the destruction like a war general. Emergency demolition order, Mr. Harper, she shouted, waving fake permits. Your property's a public safety hazard. I was livid, filming everything on my phone as I yelled, "This is my home." The bulldozer driver looked uneasy, and when I showed him my deed and Mike's report, he shut down the machine. I ain't going to jail for fake paperwork, he said, despite Diane's screams to keep going. I called City Hall on speakerphone, and they confirmed no such permit existed. Diane's smug grin faded as neighbors started recording, whispering about her scam. The driver packed up and left, leaving Diane alone in my ruined yard. But she wasn't done. The next morning, while I was sifting through the wreckage, Diane was across town meeting Carl Jenkins, a corrupt city inspector she'd had in her pocket for years. They hatched a plan to condemn my cabin with fake safety violations. Carl showed up with a clipboard, spent 10 minutes pretending to inspect, and slapped me with a $30,000 repair notice, giving me 48 hours to vacate. I played along, acting defeated, and asked him to return the next day to explain the repairs. That night, I set up a hidden camera by my door. When Carl came back, I asked innocent questions about the violations, and he slipped, mentioning Diane had fed him the complaints. The camera caught it, all proof of their conspiracy. 3 days later, sirens blared down my street. 4 police cars pulled up, and Detective Sarah Thompson approached, looking like she expected a fight. "Mr. Harper, we got a report of assault and threats against your neighbor," she said. Across the street, Diane was putting on an Oscar-worthy performance-torn clothes, fake tears, and scratches she'd clearly given herself. She claimed I'd attacked her that morning, showing fake texts and recordings from me. It was a masterful frame-up, but I stayed calm. "Check my security footage," I told Sarah. Diane panicked, claiming the videos were fake, but Sarah wasn't buying it. She reviewed my footage, which showed I was at a hardware store 3 miles away during the alleged assault. Then she checked Diane's phone and found texts to Carl, photos of my property with demolition notes, and proof she'd used a spoofing service for the fake messages. The scratches? Self-inflicted, a paramedic confirmed. "Mrs. Kessler, you're under arrest for filing a false police report, fraud, and conspiracy," Sarah said, cuffing her. Carl was arrested too, for bribery and falsifying reports. The crowd cheered as they were led away. The investigation uncovered Diane's 8-year scheme, $1.2 million in illegal profits from targeting vulnerable homeowners. She and Carl faced multiple felonies. Diane got 3 years in prison, $500,000 in restitution, and lost her properties and license. Carl got 2 years and lost his pension. My restitution rebuilt my workshop bigger, better, with state-of-the-art plumbing. My property value soared 50%, and the neighborhood became a real community again. I wrote a book about it, How I Took Down a Corrupt HOA, which became a bestseller. Now I consult for others fighting similar scams, exposing crooks across Idaho and beyond. Diane's working at a dollar store, drowning in debt. Carl's in a warehouse, banned from city work. Justice was slow, but man, was it sweet. So what do you think? Should I have settled with Diane early on, or was fighting worth it? Have you ever faced a bully like her? Drop a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories of regular people beating the system. Where are you reading from? And what's your take on this kind of corruption? Let's get this conversation going.